إِنَّا مَكَّنَّا لَهُ فِي الْأَرْضِ وَآتَيْنَاهُ مِنْ كُلِّ شَيْءٍ سَبَبًا.
We granted him power in the land and endowed him with all kinds of resources.
فَأَتْبَعَ سَبَبًا.
He set out westwards on an expedition.
حتى إذا بلغ مغرب الشمس وجدها تغرب في عين حمئة ووجد عندها قوما قلنا يا ذا القرنين إما أن تعذب وإما أن تتخذ فيهم حسنا.
Until when he reached the very limits where the sun sets, he saw it setting in dark turbid waters, and nearby he met a people. We said, O Zulkarnain, you have the power to punish or to treat them with kindness.
63. The setting place of the sun does not mean the place of the setting of the sun. According to Ibn Kathir, it means that he marched to the west conquering one country after the other till he reached the last boundary of the land, beyond which there was ocean. 64. He found it setting in a muddy spring. If Zulkarnain was Cyrus, then that place would be the western limit of Asia Minor and the Black Waters would be the Aegean Sea. This interpretation is supported by the use of the word ain instead of bahar in the Quran. 65. We said, does not necessarily mean that Allah directly revealed to him these words, and that Zulkarnain was a prophet or was the one who received inspiration from Allah, and the same is the reasonable conjecture. This concerns the time when Zulkarnain had taken possession of the land as a conqueror and the conquered people were utterly at your mercy. Then Allah posed a question before his conscience, as if to say, now is the time of your trial. These people are utterly at your mercy, and you have the option either to behave unjustly towards them or to treat them generously.
Until when he reached the very limits where the sun sets, that is, to the extreme limits of land in the west, he saw it setting in dark turbid waters. That is, at sunset it appeared that the sun was setting in the blackish muddy water of the sea.
قال أما من ظلم فسوف نعذبه ثم يرد إلى ربه فيعذبه عذابا نكرا.
He said, we will chastise him who does wrong, whereafter he will be returned to his Lord, and he will chastise him grievously.
وَأَمَّا مَنْ آمَنَ وَعَمِلَ صَالِحًا فَلَهُ جَزَاءً الْحُسْنَى وَسَنَقُولُ لَهُ مِنْ أَمْرِنَا يُسْرًا.
But as for him who believes and acts righteously, his will be a goodly reward, and we shall enjoin upon him only mild commands.
ثُمَّ أَتْبَعَ سَبَبًا.
Then he set out on another expedition.
حتى إذا بلغ مطلع الشمس وجدها تطلع على قوم لم نجعل لهم من دونها سترا.
Until he reached the limit where the sun rises, and he found it rising on a people whom we had provided no shelter from it.
66. That is, when he advanced towards the east, conquering one country after the other, he reached a territory where the limits of the civilized world had come to an end and beyond which was the territory of barbaric people, who had no shelter at all of tents or buildings.
كذلك وقد أحطنا بما لديه خبرا.
Thus was the state of those people, and we encompassed in knowledge all concerning Zulkarnain.
ثم أتبع سببا.
Then he set out on another expedition.
حتى إذا بلغ بين السدين وجد من دونهما قوما لا يكادون يفقهون قولا.
Until when he reached a place between the two mountains, he found beside the mountains a people who scarcely understood anything.
67. The two mountains must have been parts of that mountain range which runs between the Caspian Sea and the Black Sea as stated in Ayat 96. This must be so because beyond them was the territory of Gog and Magog. 68. That is, it was difficult to communicate with them. Their language was almost foreign to Zul-Qarnain and his companions, and, as they were quite barbaric, none could understand their language, nor were they acquainted with any foreign language.
قالوا يا ذا القرنين إن يأجوج ومأجوج مفسدون في الأرض فهل نجعل لك خرجا على أن تجعل بيننا وبينهم سدا.
They said, O Zulkarnain, Gog and Magog are spreading corruption in this land. So shall we pay you taxes on the understanding that you will set up a barrier between us and them?
69. As has already been pointed out in En. 62. Gog and Magog were the wild tribes of northeastern Asia which, from the very early times had been making inroads on settled kingdoms and empire in Asia and Europe and ravaging them. According to Genesis, chapter 10, they were the descendants of Japheth, the son of Noah, and the Muslim historians have also accepted this. And according to the book of Ezekiel, chapters 38, 39, they inhabited the territories of Mashech, Moscow, and Tubal, Taboshek. According to the Israelite historian Josephus, they were the Scythians and their territory spread to the north and the east of the Black Sea. According to Jerome, Magog inhabited the territory to the north of Caucasia near the Caspian Sea. 70.
According to Jerome, the Magog lived to the north of Caucasia near the Caspian Sea.
قال ما مكنني فيه ربي خير فأعينوني بقوة أجعل بينكم وبينهم ردما.
He answered, Whatever my Lord has granted me is good enough, but help me with your labor, and I will erect a rampart between you and them.
70. That is, as a ruler it is my duty to protect you from the ravages of your enemies, therefore it is not lawful for me to levy any extra taxes on you for this purpose. The treasury that Allah has placed in my custody suffices for this purpose. You shall, however, have to help me with your manual labor.
آتوني زبر الحديد حتى إذا ساوى بين الصدفين قال انفخوا حتى إذا جعله نارا قال آتوني أفرغ عليه قطرا.
Bring me ingots of iron. Then after he had filled up the space between the two mountainsides, he said, Light a fire, and ply bellows. When he had made it red like fire, he said, Bring me molten copper, which I may pour on it.
فما استطاعوا أن يظهروه وما استطاعوا له نقبا.
Such was the rampart that Gog and Magog could not scale, nor could they pierce it.
قال هذا رحمة من ربي فإذا جاء وعد ربي جعله دكا وكان وعد ربي حقا.
Zulkarnain said, This is a mercy from my Lord, but when the time of my Lord's promise shall come, he will level the rampart with the ground. My Lord's promise always comes true.
71. That is, though I have built a very strong iron wall, as far as it was possible for me, it is not everlasting, for it will last only as long as Allah wills, and will fall down to pieces when the time of my Lord's promise shall come. Then no power in the world shall be able to keep it safe and secure. As regards to the time of Allah's promise, it has two meanings. 1. It may mean the time of the destruction of the wall. 2. It may also mean the time of the death and destruction of everything destined by Allah at the end of the world, i.e., The hour of resurrection. Some people have entertained the misunderstanding that the wall attributed here to Zul-Qarnain refers to the famous Wall of China, whereas this wall was built between Derbent and Daryal, two cities of Dagestan in the Caucasus, the land that lies between the Black Sea and the Caspian. There are high mountains between the Black Sea and Daryal having deep gorges which cannot allow large armies to pass through them. Between Derbent and Daryal, however, there are no such mountains and the passes also are wide and passable. In ancient times savage hordes from the north invaded and ravaged southern lands through these passes, and the Persian rulers who were scared of them had to build a strong wall, 50 miles long, 29 feet high and 10 feet wide, for fortification purposes, ruins of which can still be seen. Though it has not yet been established historically who built this wall in the beginning, the Muslim historians and geographers assign it to Zul-Qarnain because its remains correspond with the description of it given in the Quran. Ibn Jarir Tabari and Ibn Kathir have recorded the event, and Yaqut has mentioned it in his Mu'jam ul-Buldan that when after the conquest of Azerbaijan, Umar sent Suraka bin Amra, in 22 AH. On an expedition to Derbent, the latter appointed Abdur Rahman bin Rabia as the chief of his vanguard. When Abdur Rahman entered Armenia, the ruler Shairbraz surrendered without fighting. Then when Abdur Rahman wanted to advance towards Derbent, Shairbraz informed him that he had already gathered full information about the wall built by Zul-Qarnain, through a man, who could supply all the necessary details, and then the man was actually presented before Abdur Rahman. Tabari, Vol. 3, pp. 235-239. A.I. Bidayah wan Nihaya, Vol. 7, pp. 122-125, and Mujamul Buldan, under Bab ul Abwab, Derbent, 200 years later, the Abbasid Caliph Wathik, 227-233 AH, dispatched a party of 50 men under Sallam ul-Tarjuman to study the wall of Zul-Qarnain, whose observations have been recorded in great detail by Yaqut in Mujam ul-Buldan and by Ibn Kathir in A.I. Bidayah. They write that this expedition reached Samarra, from where they reached Tiflis, the present Tbilisi, and then through As-Sarir and Al-Lan, they reached Filanshah, from where they entered the Caspian territory. From there they arrived at Derbent and saw the wall. A.I. Bidayah Vol. 2, p. 111, Vol. 7, pp. 122-125, Mujam ul-Buldan, under Babul Abwab. This clearly shows that even up till the 3rd century of Hijrah the Muslim scholars regarded this wall of the Caucasus as the wall of Zul-Qarnain. Yaqut in his Mujam ul-Buldan has further confirmed the same view at a number of places. For instance, under Khazar, Caspian, he writes, this territory belongs to the Turks, which adjoins the wall of Zul-Qarnain just behind Bab ul Abwab, which is also called Derbent. In the same connection, he records a report by Ahmad bin Fadlan, the ambassador of Caliph al-Muqtadar Billah, who has given a full description of the Caspian land, saying that Caspian is the name of a country whose capital is Itil, near the present Astrakhan, right through which flows river Itil, which joins the Caspian from Russia and Bulgar. Regarding Bab ul Abwab, he says that this city is called both Al-Bab and Derbent, which is a highly difficult passage for the people coming from the northern lands towards the south. Once this territory was a part of the kingdom of Noshirwan, and the Persian rulers paid particular attention to strengthening their frontiers on that side. 72. Here the story of Zul-Qarnain comes to an end. Though this story has been related in answer to the questions put by the disbelievers of Makkah as a test along with the stories of the sleepers of the cave in Moses and Khidr, the Quran has utilized this story, too, for its own aim and object, as if to say, Zul-Qarnain, about whose glory you have heard from the people of the book, was not merely a conqueror, but also a believer of the doctrines and the life after death, and acted upon the principles of justice and generosity. He was not a mean person like you who have been puffed up by the possession of petty estates, and give yourselves airs of superiority.
وتركنا بعضهم يومئذ يموج في بعض ونفخ في الصور فجمعناهم جمعا.
And on that day we shall let some of them surge like waves against others, and the trumpet shall be blown. Then we shall gather them all together.
73. That day, the day of resurrection. As if to continue the theme of life after death to which Zul-Qarnain referred as the time of my Lord's promise, the Quran has added, verses 99 to 101, to it.
And on that day refers to the day of resurrection. Zul-Qarnain had alluded to the day of resurrection as a day that is bound to come about because God had so decided. What is being said here is in that context and is an addition to the statement made by Zul-Qarnain.
وَعَرَضْنَا جَهَنَّمَ يَوْمَئِذٍ لِلْكَافِرِينَ عَرْضًا.
That will be the day we shall place hell before the unbelievers.
الَّذِينَ كَانَتْ أَعْيُنُهُمْ فِي غِطَاءٍ عَنْ ذِكْرِي وَكَانُوا لَا يَسْتَطِيعُونَ سَمْعًا.
Whose eyes had become blind against my admonition, and who were utterly disinclined to hear it.
أَفَحَسِبَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا أَن يَتَّخِذُوا عِبَادِي مِن دُونِي أَوْلِيَاءَ إِنَّا أَعْتَدْنَا جَهَنَّمَ لِلْكَافِرِينَ نُزُلًا.
Do the unbelievers then believe that they can take any of my creatures as their guardians beside me? Verily, we have prepared hell to welcome the unbelievers.
74. This is the conclusion of the whole surah and is not connected with the story of Zul-Qarnain only but with the subject matter of this surah as a whole. That theme was enunciated at the beginning of the surah ayats 1 to 8. The Prophet, peace be upon him, invited his people. 1. To give up shirk and adopt the doctrine of Tawheed instead. 2. To give up the worship of the world and to believe in the life of the hereafter. But the chiefs of his people, who were puffed up with their wealth and grandeur, not only rejected his invitation but also persecuted and insulted those righteous people who had accepted his invitation. The discourse deals with the same themes and utilizes in an excellent manner the three stories which were related in answer to the questions put by the opponents of Islam as a test of his prophethood. 75. That is, do they still stick to their presumption even after hearing all this and believe that their attitude will be profitable for them?
قُلْ هَلْ نُنَبِّئُكُمْ بِالْأَخْسَرِينَ أَعْمَالًا.
Say, O Muhammad, peace be upon him, shall we tell you, who will be the greatest losers in respect of their works?
الذين ضل سعيهم في الحياة الدنيا وهم يحسبون أنهم يحسنون صنعا.
It will be those whose effort went astray in the life of the world and who believe nevertheless that they are doing good.
76. This verse has two meanings. The one is the same that we have adopted in the translation. The other meaning is this: those who confined all their endeavors to the worldly life. That is, whatever they did for this world without paying any regard to God and the hereafter. As they considered the worldly life to be the real life, they made the success and prosperity in this world their sole aim and object. Even if they professed the existence of Allah, they never paid any heed to the two implications of this profession: to lead their lives in a way to please Allah and to come out successful on the day they shall have to render an account of what they did in this world. This was because they considered themselves to be mere rational animals who were absolutely independent and free from every kind of responsibility and had nothing else to do but to enjoy the good things of the world like animals in a meadow.
أولئك الذين كفروا بآيات ربهم ولقائه فحبطت أعمالهم فلا نقيم لهم يوم القيامة وزنا.
Those are the ones who refuse to believe in the revelations of their Lord, and that they are bound to meet Him. Hence, all their deeds have come to naught, and we shall assign no weight to them on the day of resurrection.
77. So worthless will be their deeds, in the sense that they will be of no avail to them in the life after death, even though they might have considered them as their great achievements, but the fact is that they will lose all their value as soon as the world shall come to an end. When they will go before their Lord, and all their deeds shall be placed in the scales, they will have no weight at all whether they had built great palaces, established great universities and libraries, set up great factories and laboratories, constructed highways and railways, in short, all their inventions, industries, sciences and arts and other things of which they were very proud in this world, will lose their weights in the scales. The only thing which will have weight there will be that which had been done in accordance with the divine instructions and with the intention to please Allah. It is, therefore, obvious that if all of one's endeavors were confined to the worldly things and the achievement of worldly desires whose results one would see in this world, one should not reasonably expect to see their results in the hereafter, for they would have gone waste with the end of this world. It is equally obvious that only the deeds of the one who perform them strictly in accordance with his instructions to win his approval with a view to avail of their results in the hereafter, will find that his deeds had weight in the scales. On the contrary, such a one will find that all his endeavors in the world had gone waste.
ذلك جزاؤهم جهنم بما كفروا واتخذوا آياتي ورسلي هزوا.
Hell is their recompense for disbelieving, and their taking my revelations and my messengers as objects of jest.
إن الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات كانت لهم جنات الفردوس نزلا.
As for those who believe and do good works, the gardens of paradise shall be there to welcome them.
خالدين فيها لا يبغون عنها حولا.
There they will abide forever, with no desire to be removed from there.
قل لو كان البحر مدادا لكلمات ربي لنفد البحر قبل أن تنفد كلمات ربي ولو جئنا بمثله مددا.
Say, if the sea were to become ink to record the words of my Lord, indeed the sea would be all used up before the words of my Lord are exhausted, and it would be the same even if we were to bring an equal amount of ink.
78. No desire will they have to be removed therefrom, because they will find no place and no condition better than those in paradise. 79. By words are meant the marvelous works, the excellences and the wonders of His power and wisdom.
Would be the same even if we were to bring an equal amount of ink. The term kalimat, words, here signifies God's marvelous acts and the excellent and wondrous manifestations of His power and wisdom.
قل إنما أنا بشر مثلكم يوحى إلي أنما إلهكم إله واحد فمن كان يرجو لقاء ربه فليعمل عملا صالحا ولا يشرك بعبادة ربه أحدا.
Say, O Muhammad, peace be upon him, I am no more than a human being like you, one to whom revelation is made. Your Lord is the one and only God. Hence, whoever looks forward to meet his Lord, let him do righteous works, and let him associate none with the worship of his Lord.